What's going on, guys? It's Bama 365. Before every college football season begins, fans count down the days until their team plays in their first game, and week by week, fans hope and pray that their team can make it to the national championship game. And last night, Michigan and Washington fans' dreams came true as they watched each other play for the national title. Both teams earned the right to be there. Washington, a team that has been slept on, underrated, pushed to the side by experts in Vegas. Both games they played against Oregon, they were favored or picked against to lose. Their offense has been able to score with the best of them, but so many games where they won by just a few points against inferior competition left a lot of questions and a lot of doubt as to how they would fare in a game like last night. And then for Michigan, a team that has the scars from the last 2 years that pushed them to get to the point they got to last night in the national title game. They've beaten Ohio State the last 3 years, and for once, that wasn't good enough. They had been to the semifinal game twice, once against Georgia, got blown out, once against TCU, unexplainable, performance against them. All off season long, that Michigan football team was motivated to do what they did last night and become champions. It was an absolutely great game. Michigan started nice and early, running the football, moving people on the offensive line. I mean, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards just literally were running, looked like they were running through the Grand Canyon. It was just wide open. It looked early like it was going to be like the TCU Georgia game. It felt like it, to me at least. And then you got to give Washington a lot of credit, though. They settled down into the game, at least defensively. Their offense was constantly looking for rhythm, but defensively, Washington deserves a tip of the cap because had it not been for their efforts, this game would have been ugly and over in the first half. Like I already said, Michigan ran the ball extremely well, which set up their play action game. That's why running the football is so important in games like this. If you can run the football the way that Michigan did, all of a sudden when you start running those play action passes, those linebackers and safeties are coming downhill. It's hard to, it's just, you got to pick your poison, and Washington, on the other hand, could never find their run game. They tried. They didn't run it nearly as often as Michigan, but they knew that they needed to try. And unfortunately, especially with Dylan Johnson injured, they just could never get it going. This game, like once it got 17-3, Michigan could have taken control. And from about the second quarter until the beginning of the fourth quarter, the game was there for the taking for either team, and their defenses both just would not be denied. Neither team was going to be denied from what they wanted. And unfortunately, one team was going to have to win, and that just so happened to be the more physical team and the better team. Washington played a good game overall, but at the end of the day, it's a 60-minute football game. You have to play just as well at the beginning as you do at the end, and that's what Michigan did. They started the game extremely well. They ended the game extremely well. That middle ground where it seemed like Washington, if they could have found some offensive, rhythm, they could have been in the game and taken somewhat of control of the game. So many mistakes by Washington that we just haven't seen throughout the season. There were just so many throws that Michael Penix was off on. A lot of great coverage, too, by the Michigan secondary, though. Mike Sanderstill, Will Johnson. I mean, Michigan's got some dudes in that secondary, and they stepped up. They did not give up any explosive plays compared to what Washington's been doing this season. And the thing that struck me the most about this game, Washington knew coming into the game what they were up against. And it was very evident in the play calling. They were, trying to get the ball out of Michael Penix's hands as quickly as possible. through screens, which were very effective, but towards the end of the game, Michigan did seem to kind of get a grip on those. Um, Washington tried to mix it up this game. They knew they weren't going to get as many home run shots, and they tried to space them out, with the quick screens. And, they did a great job of not giving up any sacks, which is a problem that Alabama struggled with mightily against Michigan. You got to give credit to Michigan, especially for the way that they tackled in space. So many opportunities for Washington players, their skill players, to make plays in space, and Michigan just made every tackle. Except there were a few plays, obviously, that they didn't make, but more often than not, Michigan just made every play they needed to make. They kept everything in front of them. Absolutely, outstanding Michigan defense. You got to give them a lot of credit. Um, you know, there were so many opportunities for Washington to make plays in this game, especially when their defense was keeping them in it. The play that I think sticks out the most is the 4th and 7 that they went for, and Michael Penix had a wide open receiver, and he just slightly overthrew it, and he tried to go up with one hand and grab it, but he just could not. Um, you definitely could tell at some point someone was going to grab the game and take it. Michigan was leaving the door open. They got up early. Washington, had opportunities, but Michigan's defense just would not allow them to take advantage of it. In the end, Kalen DeBoer squeezed as much as he could out of his team, but when it was time to be great, the Michigan Wolverines answered the bell. The 2023 Michigan Wolverines etched their name into college football immortality. Despite all the distractions, they proved to be the very best in the land. And I know this is a hot take, but after watching the national championship game, I think we can all agree that the real national championship game was last Monday night in Pasadena. Roll Tide.